You have to do it. You look out the window while I do the intro, and then you look in as if you've just arrived. Hello and welcome to this episode of the 639 Education. No, you're supposed to look in at the end. Hello and welcome to this episode of the 639 Education podcast, and I am joined by none other than Darran Lightbody. Hello, Darran.
Hi, Russ.
How are you doing?
I'm very well. I just want to talk about my new tropical themed wallpaper, which is making its online debut. What do you think?
It's striking.
It's a feature wall, Russ.
It's certainly featureful.
Look, can you see all the animals?
What I can see, I saw it. I mean, there was already a dog in the room, and now there's toucans as well.
Yeah.
Look at that guy.
He's not impressed.
Well, he's not bringing the energy to the podcast just yet that I was expecting.
He'll get there. He'll get there.
I mean, what I meant was you. But
me.
Archie's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Okay. I'll work on it.
Shall we? We should get going, really, shouldn't we?
Okay.
I've got some notes, but I fear my continuity with you may well be ruined. Darran,
maybe.
The first thing we spoke about before we went on air was I said I was going to introduce how we met, and then I said I can't remember actually how we met because you made such an impression on me the first time. But you then said that you could.
I remember exactly.
How did we first meet? I'm now terrified.
How we first met, Russ, and I can't believe you can't remember this, was in the second phase of interviewing for my role at 639, and I had travelled. I was doing a fitness camp in the New Forest, and I was stopping at 629 to get the interview to then go back to Scotland. And you were appearing as the stooge, the victim that I had to train, and Russ Harris, who I'd never met, wore the tightest pair of red shorts, which he still owns, and he knows exactly what I'm talking about. And he had these massive set of quads appearing, like you wouldn't expect it. You'd just be like, oh, right, okay. And then you see it and you're like, where did they come from? And I think I literally said that to him. I was like, what? Who knew you were packing that sort of heat? And that's when we met for the first time. We struck a chord. He's always very like, that's what he's like in the interview process. But there was a slight upturning of the mouth when I mentioned the quads. Went for flattery. Knew it right away when I saw him. And that was it. But that was it. That's how we first met.
I do now distinctly remember that moment now. I can't believe that was, maybe I've actually repressed that memory. Maybe that's what it was.
It's forefront in my mind. Let me say it has been.
You've been searching for those shorts online ever since, haven't you?
I just don't think they make that type of quality anymore, to be honest with you. They don't make them like they used to. No,
they don't.
Those shorts are certainly.
And how long ago was that? That must have been 2014. We've known each other for a few years.
Yeah, it was about 6 years, I would say.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I've got a few notes here, which is dangerous, isn't it? Just to intro you by, because it's quite an interesting background in terms of who you are and how you got into coaching. Well, who you are is very complicated, but how you got into coaching is still. Graduated a degree in engineering.
Yep.
Graduated from Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Drama.
Yep.
We'll talk about that later. Qualified as a personal trainer. Moved to London.
Yep.
PT'd at 2 extremely prestigious studios.
Yep.
In central London. Various other things that I've missed out en route, I'm sure. Lululemon ambassador.
Yep.
How on earth that happened, we still need to know. And now you've managed to set up your own business in Glasgow in possibly what is the worst financial crisis since 2008. It's a changeable CV. It's an eclectic mix. I
have a wandering curiosity. I have a curious nature. I'm always wanting to learn new things. So yeah, maybe it's that I've, as you two said, I've not found what I'm looking for, but I feel like, yeah, I'm always, be it in personal training or be it in life, I'm always looking if things strike a chord with me and take an interest in, I'll investigate.
I think I personally, I've always admired that about you, and I think it's one of those things that should be enormous encouragement to those of you out there listening who are, maybe looking to change career or looking to get into coaching, or and worried about, am I doing the right thing or am I not doing the right thing? It's like,
well, you actually mentioned this on the second interview, I believe, or I think you mentioned it when I got the job and was working at 16, and about how I was slightly older when I got interviewed, and you said it takes a certain somebody to do that, a certain type of character. They're serious, they don't muck about. That's words to that effect. I remember you mentioning that, and I hadn't really thought of it from that sort of angle before. So yeah.
Yes, I think it can be a nerve-wracking thing to change, and there's a lot of change going on at the moment.
Yeah.
And so you stand as an example, I think, to other coaches in that regard, only.
Thank you.
But,
not in any other regard.
But being able to change things and move from one thing to another is something that, I don't know, I feel it also probably adds something to your coaching repertoire.
Potentially, again, a lot of things that I do, I've always been this way, a lot of things that I just do, and then somebody like you or Josh or Dan or the other Dan, the two Dans, they articulate it in a way that I've maybe not thought about before. And I'm like, or any of the good coaches online, I'm like, I actually do that, but I haven't heard it put that way before. I don't know. I'm not saying that like I'm ahead of anything. It just, yeah.
I've always found it to be interesting, and I think it's given you a skill set which we'll possibly touch on later, which can help with kind of coaching and stuff. Because this is obviously the serious structured bit, as we mentioned before.
Yeah, I'm serious.
But that's kind of how we met, and then we worked together for a number of years at 639, which was great fun. And now we're kind of just on the brink of working together again.
Yes.
This time really combining your skills. You are ideally placed. Me and Darran are working together at the moment on a project for a European Parkinson's health company. I'm producing a physical activity approach for that. So it's more project work, coaching related, but outside of the normal 9 to 5. I'm looking forward to it very much.
Yes, so. Likewise.
So that's kind of where we are now. And you're in Glasgow.
Yes, I am.
Speaking to you from Glasgow. So not in London anymore.
No.
How has that been?
It's been hard. It's been really hard. Still is. It's different. London is its own little special thing. But Glasgow has been hard in the respect that I've probably made it a lot harder than it needed to be, and still do. And it's just different. But I have a tendency to get my own way. So it's great. There's many, to reframe it, many opportunities to be had here, because there's lots of nice little studios springing up. But fitness is seen in a different light here for a lot of people, I would say. That's just my initial impression. But
what are the differences between the way that people are viewing exercise in Glasgow? I know I've spoken to people before who say that Ireland is 2 years behind London, or Australia is 5 years ahead of this place. Is it that kind of feel? Is that the way you describe it, or is it different? Yeah,
potentially with the boutique style studio being London now, good 4 or 5 years, 69 being one of the first ever, probably, that in terms of boutique studio. But Glasgow seems to be in the last year or two, there's a few openings. So yeah, maybe it is a sort of that lag time of people getting with it. But yeah, it's just different. It's completely different. People that maybe don't put as much value on their health and fitness, maybe. Big statement, but I sometimes think that. But I think also there's been a massive change. I've seen a massive change since coming back with it. The amount of activity. We live across from Glasgow Green, which is one of the big parks, and the amount of activity there is a lot more than what I remember it being when we left London. So yeah, so that's great. But in the gyms, I'm not so sure. Again, I don't go to the kind of the mainstream gyms. I'm part of a small studio again. But yeah, my initial impression is it's maybe not as much of a thing for people up here.
Is that because there isn't quite as much demand for it? Is that there isn't enough supply? Is that a combination of the two?
I think the disposable, I don't know, like income might not stretch as far for people to do that. But again, I was speaking to somebody earlier on, and you know, sometimes I don't think that's true, because when I see the amount of nice cars getting driven about, like with the amount of young people driving nice cars, I'm like, how can they afford that car? It's like, it blows my mind. Yeah, so maybe just the focus is in other areas of their life right now rather than their health and fitness.
That's true, actually. How important it is at the moment, people not seeing it, not perhaps seeing it in you know, when they're comparing it to coronavirus, sort of looking after their, you know, fitness needs, and not quite so. Also, gyms not being such an attractive place to be at the moment. Are you venturing into the online world? Are you training people virtually? How are you?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I have been for the past year, but it's just been more of a small scale operation. But again, it's something that I want to definitely focus on with the current climate, and something that I want to evolve and grow over the next 6 months, definitely.
And when I'm intrigued about your sort of journey, because, as you say, it has been tough to go from London to Glasgow at this time. It's probably accentuated it somewhat. How do you reflect when you look back on your kind of achievements? Because it's quite a list of achievements that you've got. Do you ever kind of reflect on it that way? Do you look forwards at what you're going to do next?
Yeah, I'm quite bad at looking back. I'm always looking forward, and I'm quite bad with my mindset, because I'm always sort of focusing on what I've not done in terms of and what I have done, which is maybe not the best mindset, but I know that's one of my things. So I'm always sort of like, well, this is where I would like to be, but I'm not there yet. So that's something that I can be better on. And I always say that to my clients. It's advice I give to my clients when people are like, well, I'm not where I want to be, but look how far you've...
Is that you're not quite as funny as you'd like to be just yet, but in the future you hope to be better?
Always. I'll never be as funny as I would like to be. Never be as handsome as I would like to be. Never have as much hair as I used to have. So it's just like, you know.
Maybe I see looking backwards again.
Yeah, always.
It's at this point that I should mention the Ryan Reynolds link, really, isn't it? And then just leave people to their own device.
No, don't mention it whatsoever. Why would you do that?
I don't know. I just it's now it's out there.
Every time I move, my camera goes light and dark. I'm kind of trying to stay still, so it stays the one sort of thing. Lighting.
I'll put a screenshot up later of you two compared, so that's fine.
Okay, do it.
So, as I mentioned, you talk about looking backwards. I mean, you've been in the industry for a long time, and
yes.
Being so old,
yes,
gives you obviously an interesting perspective on where it's all gone.
Yes,
what's been happening. So, I guess what's changed in the tremendous amount of time you've been in the industry? In your view, like what do you pine for the old days? Is it like I wish it was like this again, or do you think we're moving into this online age and it's better and we're moving forwards and it's all good?
I definitely think it's better than what it used to be. I definitely think there's better. There's different challenges, as in the amount of noise in the system is greatly amplified from when I. It was basically you walked the gym floor. You tried to be a nice human being. It's like dating, you know, like that's what you do. You would like actually chat to someone and be like, oh, that's just cool, you know. And you see the next time the relationship would develop or not develop in my case, and so that's what it used to be. There would be there's really maybe the odd person used a spreadsheet to keep the program, but that's basically where it was when I graduated, and it was just referrals. You got, you know, referred clients, or you used to get new joiners to the gym. You used to join the gym and they would get an induction, and you would get, you know, X amount of inductions a week where you take them up to the room and do a consult and, you know, take their blood pressure and, you know, the deal, and then take them out the floor and do, you know, and then the second session, you try and do a wow session is what they called it. And then you'd be like, all right, then you drop the old, I'm a personal trainer. How's about it?
Yeah.
That's how it used to. That's how it used to. Yeah, that was the process flow when we first started. I didn't really follow that.
Did you have a sales patter?
No, not on any level.
No, it was all individualized.
I didn't have any patter. I didn't try and sell anyone.
You lacked patter. Maybe that's why you got so many clients.
I mean, yeah, I don't know how to do that.
Maybe all along they didn't actually like being approached on the treadmill and told to take their headphones out and then being told to while they were sweating. Maybe all along that was a bad plan, and you're actually ahead of the game.
Well, that's the thing. That's literally what they would tell you to do. And that's literally how they used to try and sell memberships to the gym as well. It was just a horrible environment in terms of, you know, sales for the gym, sales for PT. It was just like, so I just was very easy with it all. Like, we'd sit down and have a chat and then be like, right, do you want to come in for your second session, or you want to crack on and do your own thing?
Yeah.
And if they didn't, then great. I'll see you in the gym floor, and you knew somebody's name. I'd say hello every time, and you know, one of the good things you do learn was they might not take personal training now, but in 6 months' time they do. But they have that relationship with you, so that's why you always got to just be nice and be approachable and have clean teeth and nice breath and smell nice. It's always super important, I think.
It used to be virtual now.
Yeah, it can just be like literally have nothing on down below, as all our calls, just a pair of socks.
And it's all changed now, how people sell themselves and advertise their services. And
so everything's, you know, you need a funnel. Not literally, not like a funnel, but you need a funnel. Or on Facebook, you need, you know, something, or you need to be on social media, which I struggle with now and again, as he's just chilling out. So yeah, I really struggle with that and being consistent with it, because I just find it very like boring. But the other way to look at it is there's a lot of bad information out there. Like we say, there's a lot of noise in the system, and you can be a voice of reason where all around you are not so much. So that's something I need to always remember that.
Do you find that the messages that you have honed over the years and the skills that you've got, the basics that you developed probably a long time ago, those fundamentals, do you find that in a world where you can access so many people and say, you know, outlandish things, you can broadcast sort of outlandish claims without there being any kind of real response from anyone? Do you think that has made the basics and the fundamentals that you covered already unsexy and unappealing and not as wow factor?
Yeah, well, it's just been brilliant at the basics, right? That's like, and that's not sexy. But yeah, and I wrestle with that. I'm like, well, why do I need to put that out? Because so and so is putting that information out. I don't need to do that. but that's an assumption on my part, that people who follow me for whatever reason are following that person or that person. You know, like you assume that everybody's consuming the same content as you, and they're not. They're far from it. And when you have a discussion, I'm always sort of blown away by, like, how do they not know that? Like, that's like a fundamental thing that gap is missing in their knowledge base. So I always come back to that. Don't assume that people are consuming information from the same sources that you are.
So what you find fundamental and basic as a concept, somebody else has never heard of, and
it's not even on the ballpark, not even there. You're like, wow, okay.
Yeah, whereas if you're following people who are talking that way all the time, the assumption is that everybody will also
know that.
I guess when, you know, I've just watched David Attenborough's new show that's come out on Netflix, but when he was first on TV, you know, there were like 4 TV channels. So everyone was kind of...
I remember that.
Everyone was, well, yeah, I mean, you were in black and white at that point, and now...
Yeah, I remember that.
Technicolor wallpaper now.
Yeah.
But there was four channels or thereabouts, and now there are a lot more than that in terms of information that you can get. So I guess it's become... Is that what you mean when you say white noise? There's a lot more noise. It's just that there is a lot more information to be able to sift through now.
Yeah, there is. And like you say, you can consume it in many different formats, from some sort of strange documentary that appears on Netflix that becomes the thing to talk about for a week, and then it's the next thing, you know, be it's Tiger King, and then, you know, then you're on to the next thing, and then you're on to the next thing. And it's just this little hamster wheel of consumption. So, and, you know, I don't want to get into, but we're being socially engineered that way, right? We're being socially engineered in the system to be sat in front, consuming information, be it I'm on my laptop, or be it I'm on the telly, or be it I'm on this thing. And I want to fight against that.
There's somewhat of the rebel instinct.
Always. But yeah, I was just listening to, you know, I'm walking, I'm plugged in, I've got the headphone in, I'm listening to a podcast. You know, I can't even go a walk without consuming information. And not that, you know, there's anything wrong with that, but it shouldn't be the normal way of doing things.
Do you think we're addicted to information? Do you think we're addicted to our tech devices and technology?
I think that, yeah, obviously they're designed that way, so we are wanting to consume more information. But like I say, it's like I control this. It doesn't control me. And it's sometimes hard to remember that. So yeah, I always make, you know, it gets, you know, switched off at night from 10 to 7 in the morning. I can't access it. And it's not the first thing that I look at. I try not to let it be the first thing for, you know, minimum half an hour.
So
some days are bad.
What's your routine then? Because this is I think a very interesting point, which we should probably pursue a little bit, because I remember, this podcast makes me feel very young, but this point makes me feel a bit older. Is that the I remember before, like pre-mobile phones.
Yeah.
Of course, there's plenty of generations since that who are not in that same space. So I've kind of seen both sides of it, which makes me a little bit more skeptical, perhaps, of as you say, being attached to things all the time, and any information. Anyone who makes a compelling argument or a stand against technology, I'm probably in their audience, because I'm fine without it, because I was fine without it for many years. What's your sort of routine? So in the morning you kind of get up, but you don't go straight onto the phone. You kind of avoid that. Do you have tech-free time? You get out into nature? Like, what's the tech, you know?
Yeah, I don't have a specific routine. I'm always battled with this, because it's like, you know, you need to optimize your routine in the morning and do all this stuff. And I'm like, I don't have one. But I definitely try and not be in the phone, and that you know, there's ups and downs with that journey. I either be in the gym with clients, because I when I came home, decided I was only going to train clients from early morning to mid-afternoon. I'm not doing any night times anymore. So I either have to be in the studio for about 6:15 in the morning. So I'll get up at, just after 5 o'clock or near 5:30. And I try not to snooze. So I try not to hit the snooze button. I try and just, when the alarm goes off, I get up. I take my HRV, my heart rate variability, every morning. And then I'll either have something pre-made, like a smoothie that I've made, and I'll cycle in, it's 15-minute cycle into the studio from the flat and do clients in the morning, or I'll get up a little bit later and I will make breakfast for me and my wife, and my wife will go to work, and then I'll take the pup out for a walk. You can see just chilling out, and then like this morning I never listened to a podcast because I was focusing on training him, which was good. So I had all the treats and I was just doing some training with him. And then I walked into the studio today a little bit later and I listened to a podcast. So it varies, but there's some sort of things like trying to not be on the phone, trying not to consume information. First thing I try and do that, and I take my HRV. So that's basically, and I eat. I have to eat when I get up. I can't.
Are you variable enough, Darran?
Yeah, I'm variable enough, definitely.
I've got a couple of quotes from. Well, I was trying to write down some quotes. So this quote is a nice segue into the next section. But let's be honest, when I was trying to write down quotes of yours, not suitable for work springs to mind, despite most of them actually being heard at work. But there was one that's always stuck with me and fascinated me and has resonated, and also I've used as a part of my thinking ever since. And we were talking about how you built relationships with your clients and how you retained your clients, which you're always very good at. And you said that you need to present a version of yourself that they need right now, which I thought was really, really, just spoke to me massively. So it's presenting a version of yourself that they need right now. So if a client comes in and they are upset or they've got something going on in their life, and you need to be the person who lightens the day up and is just like funny and a bit of a clown, you be that guy. And then if they come in and they're joking around and prattling around and they're not doing anything, and you need to be the guy who's just a bit more like, let's have some direction here, let's do some exercise, let's put some structure on things, you be that guy.
Yep.
Does that work? Has that gone mad online? Are we just becoming sort of chameleons to what the most popular thing is right now? Is that a skill that works really well face to face, but if it's taken out of context online, we lose who we are a little bit? It might be a bit of a deep question, but
potentially. But yeah, my strength was in person. My strength is having them in front of me. So, and that's the thing, is like, can you replicate that? Now, obviously, you can have a hybrid model of people come in and see you once a month or once a fortnight, and you can do all the programming for them. So there are sort of flexibility. But then, some of my clients are in London, so they don't get to see me, which is unfortunate for them. But we have a sort of, it's a skill that is evolving in terms of me and how I can be me, but through, be it a text or be it this format, they can still, but before this, I'd heard of Zoom, but then lockdown happened. It was like, I was doing all my sessions on Zoom. And it's been really good because I've learned to hopefully communicate a lot better on that format and show who I am. So I think this is great. I really do. I wasn't too sure of it, but I think this is a great tool if they can't see you in person.
And you can always,
I'd always like to see somebody move and talk to me in person. Obviously, that would be great. But if I can't, this is the next best thing, and it's so I'm happy with it.
Do you prefer it because you can put it on mute whenever you want, and then
I don't actually do that.
get away with stuff and then go back on mute.
I don't actually put it on mute.
You hide off camera and do things and then come back on camera.
Not as yet, actually. I'm actually fairly professional.
Come on.
No. I'm honestly, I'm fairly professional.
I can't hang up on you yet and just go, Joe, I can switch you off now.
Well, I had somebody say to me they wish they had a remote control, like in person, like just, yeah, because he's like, because I've been training him a year. He's like, yeah, I know what you're going to say. Just skip that forward, skip forward, skip forward. He did say that to me yesterday.
That's nice. That really does strengthen what I made earlier, the point about relationship building.
Yeah, he is brave enough to say that to me.
That's exactly, nice spin.
But he has lost 2 stone, and he has a machine now. So I think he's feeling quite brave that he can actually take me on in a kind of Turkish wrestling sort of scenario, which is the way all sort of arguments should be settled, oiled up in a set of speedos. Yeah, I'm enough. What?
I think we made it half an hour before we got to this point. I knew this point would arrive. I think you've done really well so far.
Thank you. I'm really pleased. I'm really pleased with how kind of well I've kept it together. So,
see, that brings me on to my next quote of yours, which is give them enough of what they want so that they'll do enough of what they need to do.
You're just making things up now.
These are all your quotes, man. I don't forget. An elephant never forgets.
Yeah, but all my quotes I've stole off somebody a lot smarter than me.
Oh, that's why they sound so good. See, it's the conviction.
Yeah, I just collect things, and they go in here and they come out a different way. But essentially, there's something I've connected with that I've went, okay, I'm remembering that.
You also remember phrases by another me, because I know you have a list of autobiography titles.
Yeah. Without
wanting to go too deep into your mental instability, what is that all about? And can we hear the list?
So yeah, but So if people say nice phrases that I feel ring true to them,
yeah,
as a person, I will note down the saying. So one of my clients had one the other day. He wore they were a nice set of Nike leggings, running leggings, and I was like, look at those things. And his first words were, "Oh, these are lighter than compression." It's like, that should be the name of your autobiography, Lighter Than Compression. It's so nice. Yeah, I have a few. Yeah. One of my clients in London, So Many Shades of Disappointment that's a really nice one. Lighthearted Indecision. That's a good one. Silently Judging.
It's aggressive.
Josh Peters. It's called Coffee and Hairspray. That's going to be the name of his.
Leave that one hanging out there.
I can't say yours. I'm sure I had one for Ed, but it was really like, yeah. And then Reasonably Normal was the name of another one. Yeah, so I just take a note of all the autobiographies for some reason. So I don't know why. I know. Then I've got a saying by Michael Jordan at the quote at the bottom saying, "The more you fail, the closer you are to success." I don't know where that came from. I must have heard it when I was watching The Last Dance and been like, "Oh, that was really good."
Do you find yourself taking inspiration from not just obviously people coming up with autobiography names, but outside the fitness industry? Do you draw inspiration back into the fitness industry, into the coaching world from elsewhere?
Yeah, I feel like I get a lot of inspiration from all areas, from whatever's around me. I take a lot of inspiration from when I was at drama school and things that I learned there that still resonate with me. Sport. I like watching documentaries on sport. I like the old ESPN documentaries on sport. So I just collect things from all over, be it as a random novel, or I think that's what they teach you at drama school. And that when you go, you take inspiration from everything. You know, they really encourage you to go to art galleries, to explore art, to see opera, to hear an orchestra, to draw, to whatever it was. And I feel like that's something that I've kind of been working on is with people, is that, you know, do they have a creative outlet? I feel like it's really, really important for everyone, especially in these times that we all have this creative nature. When we went to lockdown, what's the first thing we did with kids? You know, we had the pens and the arts and the crafts all out, and we were getting creative, and everybody's like, this is great, this is amazing. But as an adult, we lose that sense of play, which we talk about when it comes to fitness, and we forget to play. But also I feel we need to have that in a creative sense as well. So as an adult, I try and, you know, what do people do as an outlet, as a creative outlet? Something that I'm quite interested in exploring with clients and encouraging.
I think that's such a good point. Such a good point to make. How do you feed that into your training, into clients' programs?
Well, it's like we've talked about. It's like you want to get buy-in, so it's not like the first session, you know, they appear and I'm in a, you know, nude modeling for them to draw, to do some drawing, but it's getting buy-in. So, you know, I have a feel for when I feel like I can maybe approach the subject, and by getting to know them, I know if they are already doing that sort of thing. You know, instead of just getting home when the work 5 p.m. hits, driving home, getting on the tube, getting on the bus, get home, have dinner, sit in front of the telly. I feel it's like there's got to be more. So again, it depends on the individual, but it's something that I definitely encourage when I feel somebody's ready for it. You know, just the basic fact: do they read? Do they like reading? Okay, they don't like that. So I never try and force anything on anybody, but I try and encourage, find out their interests, and be it cooking or baking or, you know, some form of doing something creative. I feel is a massive thing for people. When I graduated from drama school, I made pizza in a chippy, made nice pizza, and there's something really nice about creating something. And it was just a pizza, but I would make the dough, we would make the dough, and then we had the big shovels, and they'd put them in the pizza oven. It was just something nice about making a pizza and getting into a flow where you had 8 orders all in your head. And I knew the queue was, they would order it with me and they would stand in the queue and round, and I know how long it would take to get around there. And by the time they were there, the pizza was ready, and it was just really nice. I don't know, I'm going off on a tangent, but, you know, it's just something nice about creating something and seeing a finished product. And it was a really nice task that you could get in a nice flow with. And I feel like the people could do that, be it with baking or painting or drawing or whatever it is. It's just getting a nice kind of flow state, which they talk about, and your brain just goes somewhere else.
100%. I think all of those tasks you mentioned there require you to be absolutely present and in that kind of moment in order to do it. And that's probably where the enjoyment comes in, right? And I think one of the things I've experienced with clients over the years is that they are often, when they come in and they've, you know, that initial starting point when you're trying to get to know each other and trying to figure out how this interaction is going to work, and they're often way in the future, which is like, I want to lose X amount of weight, and they're almost kind of living in the future. So every present moment seems like quite disappointing. They're like, I'm not there yet, and I'm still frustrated I'm not there yet. And I see people make progress towards their goal, and yet it's still somehow this idea that they are trying to live in the future still means they almost ignore some of the sort of progress that they're making because they're not where they want to be yet. And so even when they're doing really good stuff and they might be progressing quicker than other clients I've got or other people they know, or they might be achieving somewhat their goal, it doesn't have the same sense of satisfaction that they have imagined it having. And I think sometimes I think playing games brings us back to a more sort of childlike state or a younger state. Like, you know, yourself with the pizzas, it's like it was probably a simpler time, right? Because you're younger and you've got less going on. And so that pizza making thing was like almost the whole world, not just that evening or whenever it was like the whole world, right? So I think what I try and do sometimes with games in sessions is try and get that back. Like, can I play a game that they completely fully engage in that game and the rest of the world melts away, and then this PT session has become something
completely
different, the best possible form of escape. It's become like I can go and be a child with this weird guy who tells shit jokes and plays.
That's what it's all about. We had I had a class. My wife was like, you need to make a class during lockdown, and we always talked about making a class where it was just about play, games, and we called it Organized Chaos, which was a good name for it, which she came up with. And but that's what it was. It was gamifying things. Yeah, we did lots of sessions. You know, we did just good movement prep, but then we would gamify things, and it was just all games that she'd used with the kids at school, or I had found somewhere online that you use with lots of kind of kids in the United States. They just gamify a lot of things when they're teaching them movement. And it was just like making that for adults. So, you know, we'd play versions of caterpillar rounders, you know, it was just like, and you just seen people get so competitive and like so into it, you know, like, you know, 2 teams of 3 or, you know, whoever was there, and it was just like, it was so good. And it was great because people, they were doing like max effort sprints, but I wasn't going, right, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to do 6 by 60 max effort sprints. You know, we were playing around, they were sprinting in all various directions as hard as they could, because they, you know, we gamified it, and it just made it so much fun. So yeah, the gamification thing just is great, you know, if you can do it. But again, you know, got to do the bread and, you know, got to do the bread and butter. You've got to build that to the basics first, and then you can, because there's an expectation. You're going to come in second session, you're going to play a game. You're like, again, that's something that I would evolve into with someone.
Yeah, that's what I was going to touch on next, because I think gamification is enormously important. And I think actually, I don't know a single person who doesn't succeed in the gym because without gamification. I think what happens as you get more experienced is the game is tracking your weights. The game is how much muscle have I put on. The game is fine. It becomes more serious. It becomes more organized and structured, and the rules are tighter. But you listen to any bodybuilder talk about the artistry of what they're doing, or any athlete talk about the process of training. And so you hear Muhammad Ali, Usain Bolt, these top level athletes hate training, love competition, love running, love boxing.
That's my wife hates training.
Yeah.
But so, like in a game,
yeah.
You know, and I was like, oh wow, didn't realize that. And it's but it's something you said. Well, when I was, we'd have to learn lines, and as any actor knows, it's just such a laborious task. But I tried to gamify that, and it was basically like I was a detective, and all the clues to solve this case were in the text. And I had to find the clues. I had to interpret the text and to find the solution. And the solution would be the way I would interpret it. That was the solution. My solution would be different from your solution. So I had to do that when I was learning lines. So I would that would initiate the process. And because it comes from maybe a slightly sport background, I was like, I'm not going to be beat. They're not going to get away with this. I need to find out. And then you need to do the hard work and just going over one word or one sentence because you couldn't get it in your head and do the work. But again, one of the points for me was gamifying it for myself. So that would initiate my drive to learn the text. So yeah.
Fascinating. I think it's nothing short of genius. I do genuinely think if you can view training your clients through the lens of turning the gym into a game, turning exercise into a game, turning achieving goals into a game, you will unlock the key to human motivation, changing behavior. People will change their behavior willingly if they understand the rules of the game and they want to play and they want to win. And some people are already in that space. Some people come into PT studio, or they want to get a personal trainer, but they're already there. They're like, I'm going to do this. I'm on it.
Yeah.
Because I think other people really want to achieve that thing, but the way they're viewing it is that it's this kind of linear, laborious, arduous, work-laden, no pain, no gain process by which you get there. And I think that genuinely, I believe that when personal trainers click with their clients and vice versa, is because sometimes they accidentally stumble across the right game, the right language, the right set of rules to use with that particular client. We're going to track your food. We're going to use MyFitnessPal. We're going to give you a macro targets. These people go, this is the kind of game I play at work.
Yeah, this is great.
I have to make X million pounds at work. Someone gives me a set of rules to work on the trading platforms, and off I go. And so maybe that works. But then I think sometimes, unless you're aware as a personal trainer of what you're doing by gamifying the process of achieving results, you won't be able to change the game to suit every single client. And I think that's, as always, you kind of understated and undersold perhaps some of your genius in bringing some of your previous life and some of that stuff you did at drama school seamlessly into the fitness world.
Yeah, the thing is that I didn't think I did that.
I know you didn't.
I just don't think I do that. It's just like, yeah, I've always been that way. But yeah, I didn't think there was any carryover, but there's always loads.
Indeed. I didn't know we were going to go down gamification, but we did go down the gamification. So I find that absolutely fascinating. I know there are some good links which I will post up underneath here to that kind of stuff for coaches to read a bit more about if they're interested in.
Yeah, I would like to read them too. Yeah, I would. I definitely would. It's just like I've came to this through whatever means, my experience, having, did the Broy bodybuilding and then doing, CrossFit when it was like 2009, and it was like the Wild West for like 3 or 4 years, and then coming out the other side of that and investigating, my curiosity wandered, and and it took me elsewhere, and that's sort of where it's kind of arrived at in the last little while.
So we've talked a little bit about how we got to this point. We talked about where we are now. I guess it's probably, poetic's a stretch, but it's probably right that we talk about where we're kind of going next. Obviously, I'm not 100% sure what where you guys are at in terms of Scotland, what you guys are doing with lockdown, but here we're locked down until March currently.
Really?
Well, in so much as if you can work from home, do work from home. You don't go into the office if you don't need to. 10 o'clock.
March. Everybody's saying March. It's one of my other clients was like, yeah, it's March. I think March is going to be the time. April. I'm like, I didn't get that memo. It's just like there's something happening at that before then. That's we don't know about. For them to be communicating, it's March. They're like, there's something going on. Anyway, let's not talk about that.
But what's coming up for you in the future, and perhaps also, let's start there, and then maybe we can sort of finish on some advice to some of the trainers listening in, and they can learn from your wisdom.
Go. Say something that's what?
Did I lose you?
I was sending a text. I was distracted by somebody's picking me up, and I was like, "What time? Not now."
What I was saying was kind of in the next few months for you. What's happening? What's the plan? Do you need a plan? Is it play it by ear at the moment? Is that the best way of progressing?
No, and that's not been working. So we need to have a plan, and we need to action said plan, which I always say is like, it's all fair and well watching the next YouTube video about whatever that may be, whatever YouTube or Instagram wormhole that you dive down. Is basically, let's not do that. You know enough already. That's me, you, anyway. You know enough already. You just need to do it. and get out your own way and start doing. So yeah, that's what I need to do. I need to have a plan. I know where I want to be, and the kind of timescale I want to do it. So it's just a matter of doing it now and actioning it. I know enough, and I have watched enough, and I've read enough, and listened to enough to actually be a bit braver in my old self, and just communicate my ethos and message in a bigger level. So does that answer your question?
It does. I think it's interesting, actually. It's probably raised another couple of points like worth sort of mentioning to finish on. Is like there's so much information out there now that is this kind of paralysis by analysis type situation where you can listen to two prominent speakers on YouTube who've got great ideas, but they contradict with one another, and you can listen to them both, and then you end up sat in the middle going, well, I don't have enough information or knowledge or experience to contradict this one or this one, so now I don't know what I should be believing or where I should be going. And so the more you read and the more you listen to, the more you become just an amalgamation of other people's ideas, and the more difficult it may be to actually make a move of some
Yeah, no, definitely. And I've been doing this 10 years, so it's a really good enough time to know exactly what you're all about. And again, that evolves, that changes. But yeah, that's long enough to put a stake in the ground and going, right, okay, this is what I'm all about. And people need to do that. I don't know whether it's me just being slightly older that I have that sort of thing. So I see lots of young people on the interweb, very easily putting themselves out there, and just because they've grown up with that sort of thing from the age of whatever, 13, 14. Now they're 22, and it's just like normal. Whereas I'm like, and you start judging yourself and all that sort of stuff, which is when I'm in the gym environment, in a gym environment, studio environment, there's no way that would ever, those sort of thoughts would come into my head, because that's my space. But when you put my space on this space, it's like, it's this different. So yeah, so we've got that sort of little journey to go on.
Do you remember MySpace?
I actually do. I never had one, but yeah, I do remember that used to be a thing. MSN Messenger.
yeah. When you used to have to, someone would pick up the house phone and you'd lose all your conversations because you're on dial-up.
Yeah. So it's just funny. It's just different, right? But again, it's like where I see the path of most resistance is that's where I have to go. Always. So I always used to say, and now it's a kind of, I've heard other people say, I have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. That's the way I always was. Before I went to drama school, it's like, I don't want to be comfortable. I have to be uncomfortable, because it means I'm developing, growing, learning. And it's the same with this.
Well, I, for one, am always extremely comfortable talking to you, Darran. I could listen to you talk for a very, very long time. And if nobody else, if we weren't broadcasting it as well, I'm sure the content would shift slightly as well, as it always does. But I think it's been a great journey, sort of going back into, I guess, right from where we met to, well, before that, way before that in your journey, and bringing it all the way down to where we are in present moment. Hopefully you guys watching at home and listening along have also found it interesting, and maybe
and if you haven't, don't say it, just say you have. I'm such a fragile ego.
Just tell him it was good. It's fine. Please, God, don't tell him it was bad. But I would love to have you back on, Darran. It'd be great to speak to you, and maybe next time we'd pick a topic and we'll hammer into something in a bit more depth and detail. Yeah. Great.
Anytime, mate. Anytime.
Fantastic.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure, and thank you for you guys listening at home. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the 69 Education podcast. And Archie has been enthralled throughout. I think that's clear to see. He's not invited next time. Archie,
Yeah.
it was poor performance.
Terrible.
We've got nothing.
My dog's broke.
Thank you. Oh, that's it. We get a wave. Bye,
Yeah.
Archie. All right. Thank you very much, Darran. Until next
See you,
time.
mate.
Bye-bye.